the 28th, 2023. It's 4:30. I'll call this city workshop to order. Councilwoman Hickman, would you lead us in the prayer, please?
My Father, we today thank you, God, for your grace and your mercy, God. As we stand in this grace, this nameless grace, this undefinable grace, oh God, we ask, oh God, that you open up our hearts and our minds and our ears to hear from you, Lord, today. To hear what you would have for us to do. God, we ask that you remind us, oh God, of the oath that we've taken, and let us make decisions from that oath, oh God, that we took, oh God, to serve the people in this city. And God, we thank you for the opportunity that you have afforded to us, oh God, to do that. And I ask that you, oh God, move in this room today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Face the flag. Salute. Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hickman.
Here.
Councilman Marcellin.
Here.
Councilman Godfrey.
Here.
Councilman Larkin.
Here.
Councilman Reynolds. Councilman Ledoux. President Hooper.
Here. Okay, today's agenda is the workshop for the budget. Mayor, I'll offer to you, but first what I want to go over is each department head, I want you to speak on behalf of your department. Let us know what's going on in your department, and then after y'all get finished speaking, then we'll open it for questions from the council.
Yeah, that's fine. I just have two that are still standing. So we can both have Tommy and Roy kind of give a brief overview. And I assume that you're talking about on their items that are going to be on this agenda, or in this budget,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
So we'll open it with Jenny, if you can give us an overview.
Okay. Just to briefly, page 4, projecting the expenditures to be 2.4 million more than revenues. And this is not uncommon to do this because we've always been conservative with projecting the revenues. Let's see. And I can go over a few things and then y'all can have the questions. The utility fund, if you want to look at the 3-year, let's just do the consolidated on page 8. It shows proprietary fund, which is utility fund. The deficiency, expenditures over revenues is $975,000. As we're required to report depreciation and OPEB benefits, that basically is the amount of the loss, and that is non-cash items. That's a requirement by the state to report that. They're anticipating receiving about $8.5 million in sales tax. It has reduced a little bit recently. There's a schedule on page 11 and 12, which lists the capital expenditures, which is any item over $5,000. We're not talking equipment, we're talking basically projects. If you have any questions on that.
Okay.
Page 11.
Thank you.
11 and 12. Page 31 on the chart.
And again, tell us, page 11 and 12, those are major expenses that we're seeing.
They're projects over $5,000.
Correct.
Which is required to be recorded separately in, under the fixed assets.
Okay.
It's not equipment, it's just projects.
Okay. And each department head will cover those.
Yes.
Okay.
And the projected amount, you know, the reason for it, and how it's gonna be paid for.
Okay.
Page 31 is a little chart of revenues. It shows in the chart the last complete year, which is 21-22, and in 2021, it peaked, and it peaked because of sales tax was up, and also they received the ARPA money. I don't know, you know, whatever questions y'all might have.
Okay.
Do we go ahead and?
That, no, not yet. I want each department head to cover first, and then we'll come back to you, Ms. Jenny. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Who wants to go next? Thank you, Tommy.
So in this year's budget, I'm asking for 2 new employees, starts at starting pay. We have 2 bush hogs that we pull with our tractors that are wore slap out. So we're looking at replacing the two bush hogs. Should run about 6,500. We have a huge pile of waste dirt at the maintenance yard that we have to get rid of in order just to have room to put in our waste dirt. Me and Roy will be splitting that. We're looking at about $16,000 a piece to try to get that pile of dirt hauled off. 1 truck for the department, 2 cemetery mowers. We bought 1 this year, and we're looking to get 2 more of the same kind of mowers. We're barely keeping them running now. We have the street overlay program that we want to put together this year. Yeah. We're getting $750,000 through capital outlay. Looking at trying to budget around $600,000 to go with that. So again, that should give us an actual working overlay of somewhere around $1.2 million. I mean, it comes out to 1.35, but engineering costs and everything, the project, probably around $1.2 million. I put in for a painting project downtown, try to spruce up downtown a little bit. And see, that'd be about $12,000. We have about an 8-acre plot of land out at the wastewater plant that we need to clear as a debris management site in case we have another hurricane, tornadoes, and so on and so forth. We've got a price of about $25,000 to $30,000 to clear that out. We've took a loss of God knows how many trees out of West Park. I have requested about $50,000 to start trying to put trees back in West Park. Keep in mind, I'm not talking about little bitty trees. I'm talking about 4 to 6 inch trees, 15 to 20 foot tall already. Something they plant with the big spades so that we can create our canopy back. And that's about what I've got going into this year's budget. Any questions?
We'll come back to your questions,
Okay.
Mr. Landry.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
So I've got a water sector project that's been broken into 2 projects. One is the May Street elevated tower. The other is Robertson Macomb area rehab. The rehab for the water will also include parts of Texas Street and Gaucher. It's an older water main that's just got old materials, lead, copper, stuff that needs to be taken out and replaced with better up-to-date stuff. The wastewater plant drying beds, the drying beds themselves have been rebuilt, but the cover is starting to degrade. The purpose of that is to keep the drying beds dry. So we have leakage, failure, we need to take care of that. Bilbo plant has an area where we receive deliveries, work trucks, trucks with cables and lifts that they have trouble getting in and out of. We've got to do something there to build it up, put some rocks so it's easier access. The water treatment plant office needs to be upgraded, new flooring and countertops. It's one of the older offices we have, and it's outdated and it's not in the best shape. And I want it to be more accommodating for when people come in off the street. It's not as embarrassing. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
So, a couple things for ours. Of course, probably the big thing when you look at some of the items and equipment, the big numbers, is 566 for the fire trucks. That's to pay for the down payment on the 2 chassis. They should be arriving sometime in November, December timeframe. By doing that, we received about a $24,000 discount off of each truck. So, and then the trucks should be here somewhere between the March and June timeframe. The rest of the remaining balance of those trucks, which were $675,000, the 566 divided by 2 would be the half is two something. I don't remember the exact number in front of me, but the remaining balance will be financed, and then we'll have a note beyond that. The $40,000, that's an estimated. I couldn't get an exact number prior to this budget workshop. I did get a number afterwards, but I'm not happy with that quote, so we're going to work on that. But that's an estimated number for the budget. I'm really hoping that number is going to be a lot less than the $40,000 mark. We're looking at alternatives to get some quotes and everything. As far as everything else on the budget, throughout the other lines, there wasn't really much change in our numbers. The only change you might see, probably so, is in operating. I recently had some hose testing done. We have to have annual hose testing of all the fire hoses to test for pressure, and I had quite a bit of hose that failed. So that is a large expense that we have to incur to buy new hose. So that had to be added to this budget so we could purchase the other hose. Other than that, everything else on our budget is pretty much the same as it was last year. So I'm more than glad to answer any questions.
We'll come back to you.
All right.
Thank you.
We only have 2 projects for the police department, and that is one that's always recurring is in units. We're starting to get into our Ford Tauruses. They're starting to push about 6, 7 years old. The sedans do not seem to last as long as the SUVs. So we're pushing the fleet more to the SUVs, which are more durable and can withstand high water and stuff that we need. And as you see in that, there's $180,000 for 4 of them. Well, every year those prices have just went up on state contract, and that was the price that was given to us by the Dodge dealership, because that's the only thing we can get. The Ford Explorers were actually higher than the Dodges, and they're smaller and don't really fit our needs. The Durangos seem to be fitting our needs a whole lot better, so that's the ones we quoted for the budget. The other project that we had was the extension to the animal control building. We did build one back in, I believe it was 2015, 2016, and that was the office complex with the 2 storage, but we didn't do nothing with the kennels. Every year we fight with the kennels to keep them climatized, to kind of keep it cool in there for the animals, or heat in the wintertime. We would like to add on to that building that's there. We are getting quotes. We was hoping that the quotes was coming in. It's a project I've given to Deputy Chief Hall. One quote has come in at around $68,000, but that's not including electrical and the air conditioning to climatize that new section. So we did receive a grant for a rec yard, but that's coming out of a personal fund that this lady just wants to give the city and build it like a 40 by 40 rec yard, kind of like the dog yard over the dog park we have. So that would be built right behind that animal control facility. That's the only 2 projects I have. Like Chief Harlow said, there is some, the numbers pretty much the same on all the line items. So that's all I have is those 2 projects as the main big ones.
Okay, thank you. Mayor?
I can hit on the recreation stuff. Ashley's father-in-law passed over the weekend, and she is stuck in Dallas at the airport. So just want to go over hers. Before I talk about recreation, I think that you all knew that there was going to be some things that we really had to take out of the budget, make smaller, in anticipation of what you guys were gonna do with water rates and, just one of the things that we did, we really looked at recreation and just got back down to the bare minimum. And so we really wanted to take this year, to make sure that West Park gets brought back to, before Laura conditions. So that is what we're going to do. With a focus on, getting the walking trail, done and, putting the playground equipment back. We are still working with FEMA on the recreation part and the studies that are required, but, we just made it a priority to really utilize our budget funds to get us back to pre-Laura conditions. So, focusing on that, continuing with, what Tommy said with the trees. We're budgeting 50. We're also gonna launch a tree program for the community to buy into with a goal of also getting in, at least 50, just to match what the city's gonna do, to put trees back into West Park, all following the master plan that has been created. She's got a project in here to expand the disc golf over at Veterans Park. That's really a popular spot, so we want to do that expansion. Those players have been asking for that for quite some time. But that is really it in terms of recreation. Like I said, we made sure that this year's was minimal, just anticipation of everything. Some of the other things, when we looked at cuts from other departments, we have been fortunate in the last couple of years to be able to do 2 street overlays, with the help of capital outlay money. This year we will only do 1. I was not comfortable cutting either of the water projects, because when you look at it from a health, and safety viewpoint, did not want to be responsible for cutting out anything to do with lead and copper or our water lines and water tanks. So, when we have to cut, as we did, we kept the water projects in there and cut everywhere else. So, that is all that I have.
Did I get everyone? Okay. Council, we'll start with questions.
You wanna start with?
Yeah, that's fine. Mr. LeBeau?
Chief, I was down at the dog pound a couple of months ago. You're absolutely correct. It's in dire need of an upgrade down there. I haven't been down there in 5 or 6 years, and it's kind of embarrassing. I'm glad we're not on.
Yes, we are.
TV.
We are.
But anyway, they should know it. And I'm glad you're aware of it.
We've been working with the mayor's office and, rescue groups, and we can't meet some of the needs to find with the Bissell Foundation and the Sheriff's Department. They fully funded their shelter, which was a little over $200,000 they just, put into that building. We're not projecting that much for this add-on, but it's definitely will give us a good, upgrade to what we have.
I think and I'm gonna mispronounce it, Bizzle.
That's what he was just talking about, Bissell.
The 200,000, super gesture by that lady. She came down and wrote a big check. Tommy, on the street overlay, how many bidders did we have?
3.
How many miles are we doing?
I don't have that number, sir.
Well, you've got the feet.
Yes, sir.
You can do the feet and figure out.
I can figure that out and get you that number.
Yeah, I'd like to know that number. I noticed in the Baton Rouge African about a week ago, I may have sent you that article, how many miles they're doing. It looked like they were doing a lot more miles than we were, and I just curious, maybe they had more bidders or what?
I don't know, sir. They're probably dumping a lot more money into it.
I think they were dumping little over 8 million.
Yeah, we're putting in $1 million for construction.
I'll send you that article. I think I still have it.
Okay.
I'm through right now.
Thank you. Ms. Hickman?
Mayor, since you're doing the, recreation, you said that it says that you're doing recreation expenditures, you're increasing that, right?
Let's see, I can turn to it. What page are you on?
Oh, it's just a note that I had.
Let's see.
do look at, each line to say exactly where, but you just want to know where all the increases are, or?
I'm pretty sure, I made a note that it is a recreation increase on expenditures.
Okay.
Look
Well,
at
it's
page
very-
50.
Okay. Very likely.
I was just asking because you were talking about cuts.
Right, well, so the way that it typically works when we talk about cuts, we're not looking at cuts from last year's budget.
I'm not looking at last.
I understand, so when I talk about cuts, so when we do the budget, each director puts together a wish list. And they talk about all of the things that they want to do, would like to see done. And so when I say cuts, there were a lot of things that were cut from the wish list from recreation. You know, things that we would have wanted to do, but we decided not to do, in an effort to be able to do things in other places, if that makes sense. So when I talk about cuts, I'm talking about cuts from their wish list of what they wanted in their departments.
Okay. Tommy, you said that you put in the budget that we needed 2 more staff in your department?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
What are you looking at? What's the
I'm
question?
just trying to understand all the cuts and the increases, that's all. This is something I'm trying to understand.
So is that a question for Mr. Landry on?
I'm trying to understand, is this what we're recommending for the budget? That you want 2 new staff members?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's why the increase on the salaries?
That is correct.
I just wanted to make it clear.
Tommy, I think maybe we probably asked, and I can't speak to this, what positions, are there outside positions or inside the
Oh,
building?
no, sir, that's for the street crew themselves.
I think that-
Okay.
is that
For
what
the
you're
work
talking
crew.
about? Okay.
Yes, yes.
So you're not hiring 2 new people, you're just,
Yes, that is
Yes,
hiring
ma'am.
2 new
Two
people
new
to go on the street crew.
People to work on the
Okay.
street crew.
On that same question. I'm on that same question.
Can Mr. Marcella add
Go ahead.
something on
yes,
that question?
go ahead.
Tommy, so I can help understand the increases that are in this, and you said they would be, and this is just to help me know how to figure. You said it would be 2 new employees, and they would be bringing in at starting pay.
Yes.
What would that be, like annually?
Well, I don't know what it is annually.
Well, what is it a month, an hour?
Just give them our
Just give me an
starting
hour.
hourly rate.
Yeah, they start at $12 an hour now, $13 an hour.
Okay. And they normally get at least 40 hours a week or
Yes.
over?
Yes, normally 40 hours a week.
Okay.
It's roughly $27,000 a year
Okay. Thank you.
per employee.
And I can finish?
Go ahead, Ms.
Okay,
Hickman.
you talked about 2 parks. You talked about West Park and Veteran Park. So what are you saying? You're not gonna put any money in Bryan Park and North Street Park? Because, and let me finish my sentence, I'm almost there, because I wanna make sure we get it all covered. Because, I understand we had, what, 65,000 allotted to North Park last year, we didn't use it?
Well, it's still August, and.
We only used 3,000 or something?
We're not done, so everything that was supposed to take place in North Park is still underway. As soon as Don Davis can complete the work, it will, so we still have basketball goals to put up in North Park, lights to go around the baseball fields, dugouts that are gonna be going in at, North Park, so all of that is still underway, we're not finished with this budget year. So all of that is still going to continue. There was another thing that is still yet to go.
And I'm new, so I'm trying to get a clear
No, that's
understanding.
okay, so.
So if you don't spend the 65,000 before the end of this fiscal year, it goes back into the budget, right?
It does roll over, the projects will roll over, but we still have every intention that these things are already underway.
Jenny, you wanna elaborate on that?
I mean, do it roll over to
It's
service
it's
the
considered
park?
works in progress, yes, but
Okay.
I'm trying to pull my stuff up because she gave, disc golf, that's also part of that's gonna be done in this budget year, that was also budgeted from the last, so. everything that was in the budget that you're reading in last year's budget for North Park will be done this budget year. So I don't anticipate any of that not being spent.
Okay, Mr. President,
If I'm
on
not
that same
mistaken,
question.
with North Park, Holly put a stop to some projects not knowing if they were gonna get that line of credit monies. And so it may not be displayed in the budget, but now that they got the money, the projects continue.
Can I yield the floor to Mr. Marcel?
Sure.
Yeah.
Mayor, on that same topic, just so I understand how that works, let's just assume that for some reason that 65,000 can't be spent because of weather, other circumstances. Then is that 65,000 or whatever's remaining for that project for North Park still carried into to finish into the next budget year? Where does that money go?
It does, it goes forward as a work in progress, is how that is considered in next year's budget.
So that money would be earmarked outside the budget?
It is still going to be
It would be
spent
spent
for
outside.
those items.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Ms. Hickman, anything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
The police jury member that represents, our district, contacted me and talked to me about the, Bryant Park. So we are not putting any money into Bryant Park?
Well, we're constantly putting money into all of the parks. We do not have anything anything big, any capital improvement in all of the parks this year, which is the first year that we have it, so that we can completely close out and make West Park what we need to do, putting the disc golf in, and then we have general maintenance and upgrades that we do, that's not more than $5,000. Now, know that when we list the capital expenditures, all of those things are over $5,000. So no, we're not doing any capital improvements in all of the parks this year.
But you did say you're gonna do more work in the West Park, right?
We are going to fix the walking trail and replace the swing sets and playground equipment that was damaged during Laura.
And are you aware that, the walking trail at Bryant Park is totally destroyed, or is messed up? Really bad?
Well, we can,
Ditches, holes, are you aware of that?
you know, so if there are those items, we do have general fund, you know, so when you look at recreation, and you look at the general fund for recreation, just operations, those sort of improvements would come out of the general operations line item. So we're not gonna have a line item that says fix holes in the walking trail at Bryant Park. That's where it's gonna come from if there are
But you
issues.
are fixing the holes in West Park, right?
There's a whole lot more than fixing holes in
I'm
West
just
Park.
It needs to be replaced.
That's what
Okay.
you said,
It
huh?
needs to be replaced.
Yeah,
I
it
hear-
needs to be
it's
replaced.
the
And
whole-
so,
the
when
whole
you're
trail
talking
is broken.
about
All
some
needs to
holes
be
in
replaced.
Bryant Park, we can't, it's not the same. You know, so I understand they both need to be replaced, they're both important. Bryant Park will be handled out of operations, but it's a line item for the replacement of West Park. Primarily because that is how it's listed as a FEMA project, that is how it's listed through grants, and that's what we have to do to get back and follow the requirements of the federal government.
Mr. President, on that same line.
Okay.
And looking at where you say West Park renovations, it says that this project will be paid from FEMA money, and then at the same time, creek vegetation will be paid from FEMA money. So I'm assuming that means that that is not money that's coming from our general budget, that we have got extra money that's gonna take care of that. Is that correct or not?
That is correct. So when we have the items for the projects in there, that is coming from the FEMA designation.
Okay.
And so when we talk about getting to pre-Laura, that is what we're trying to get to, because that is all we can use with FEMA money.
So, for clarity in my mind, when it says FEMA money, we have this $140,000 for Quick Creek vegetation that's already there. So we're not really concerned that it's gonna come out of, help me, Tommy?
So the way that works.
How does that work?
We've got to pay the money up front, and then
Okay.
we get a reimbursement from FEMA.
Okay,
So, no, the money's not already there. We
Okay.
have to pay for it out of budget, and then we do all the submittal of the paperwork, and then FEMA will reimburse us the money that we can show that that we spent.
And after we complete a project, what is normally their turnaround? When do we get our money back?
Oh,
Is it long time?
We are
Sometimes it
still
is,
waiting on
sometimes
money
it's
from
not.
FEMA for debris removal. So that's why it's not very easy or comfortable, you know, to say, okay, well, like expenditure is gonna get replaced by this exact revenue, because we can't bank on FEMA, and we're not using any line of credit for recreation.
So then FEMA money is hopeful, but it's really basically, it's a general budget item.
That is correct. We waited for 2 years thinking that we would be further along in the process with FEMA, but that is why I say we got to a point and we're 2 years later and we have to fix the walking trail at West Park, we have to replace that equipment. So that is why I wanted to budget for those items, get complete and caught up on that, and then when the reimbursements come, they come, but we can't just continue to wait for the federal government to send us a check. We have to make it safe and fix the park.
You have to spend the money before they will reimburse.
Fully understand, thank you. And
Miss,
being out to West Park, not at North Park, all I know is that from West Park, it is dangerously buckled. There may be some repairs that can be done at North Park from the standpoint of patching it. I have not seen it,
Well,
but
she's
if you
talking
will
about
look.
Bryant Park, but I mean, no doubt.
Bryant
we-
Park, I'm sorry.
We can fix that, but
But-
it just comes out of a separate line
I
item.
understand, but I'm just saying, it is just, West Park is
Bryant
almost
Park is
unwalkable,
also,
almost
unsafe.
unwalkable.
And so I just really want you all to put that at the front of your
Yeah.
brain, that it is unsafe and
Sure.
they deserve to be safe.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't think that our budget is prioritizing importance of any park or any neighborhood or anything over any other. It's just a matter of how projects have to be listed. But at the end of the day, there's no certain area or park that has any more importance. In fact, the last 2 years, North Park has received probably the most funds because it was in dire repair and did need a whole lot of stuff. So, it's hard to, from year to year, say that you're dumping more money here or there when ultimately we have a responsibility for the entire city as a whole. It's just a matter of, what needs to be done, and how it has to be listed.
Okay, and, so that we put this on the, front, Bryant Park, would you also take a look at lighting over here?
I will. I mean, if you and the police or whoever else, you know, you have a list of concerns or needs, have you been turning in the work orders for Bryant Park if those are concerns, the unsafe conditions?
I just went only a couple days ago to
Okay.
look at it.
So, you know, we can
So
go
I
and
mean, I
take an
see so
assessment.
many guys over there all the time, I'm just assuming that it's been taken care of, that's my fault. They over there, you know, doing whatever, and, I just assumed that the city was on top of it.
Well, we'll make it a priority to go and check for any unsafe conditions and take care of those as we see fit.
As you see here, thank you.
is that all, Ms. Hickman?
I yield for right
Thank you.
now.
Thank you. Mr. Larkin? Mr. Godfrey?
Well, good afternoon, good evening, Mayor. But the question I have is like dealing basically with everything that you were saying, that we put money in North Park. And my concern is that we allocated the money, and I know I heard you saying that we are going to finish the projects that's already needed. But I haven't seen anything that's being done over there. The thing I have, in talking to Ms. Ashley, all I've been getting was just excuses why things was not being properly taken care of. So when I leave this meeting today, if some of the citizens that's live in that area that's looking, and those that's not there, I can go back comfortably and tell them the projects that I sit down, I talked to Ms. Ashley about, is gonna be taken care of.
Are you talking about the lights, the
I'm talking-
dugouts,
I'm
the
talking about the
basketball
dugouts, the
goals?
lights.
Right.
I mean, just the condition of that place altogether.
So we redid the basketball courts, correct? And
You
we
did the
restriped
basketball
those, So we
court.
still have goals. Do you have a timeline on the lights and the
They're
rest of the
up.
projects?
They're
The
up.
lights went up,
Lights already up.
okay.
See, the problem that I have over there is the dugouts. You're sitting on the floor.
Uh-huh,
To get to the opposite dugout, if you don't go across the field, you can't get to it, you have to go across it, cause all of the foliage, the woods and everything's grown over
Right.
the vegetation over there.
Well, the dugouts are in process, so yes, you can go back to your constituents and say those projects are gonna be done.
All right, then.
But at the same time, I would like to, remind you, just because I used to, and I still do tell everyone, I think that's the best kept secret baseball field there is over there.
It is.
And even when I've said that, it didn't have baseball lights and the dugouts weren't usable, so even prior to Hurricane Laura, the lights weren't working and the dugouts weren't used. So I would also like for you to point out to them that we are trying to fix it up, and that hasn't been done in the past 20 years. And those aren't hurricane replacements, that's just us making a priority to make North Park
And the
back
reason
to
why I'm
its
saying
full
that because,
glory.
the only reason why I'm saying that, Mayor, is because I had some teams to go over there to try to use that field to play in, and it was just in a horrible condition.
Well,
and they
it
couldn't do
is, and it's going to improve, and those projects are underway, and you
Alright.
can tell them in confidence that those projects will be completed.
All right. Appreciate it, Mayor. That's all I have.
Mr. Marcelo?
I've heard from Tommy regarding employees. I'm just gonna ask the other departments, which was water, fire, and police, were y'all looking at adding any other employees in your areas? No, thank you.
So, Mr. Richard, how are we handling the, animal control? Isn't that a different?
Yes, we did take that position and make it a civilian position, not civil service, because there's so many rules with civil service with rank and trying to get someone to go into that position. It's easier just to hire straight, civilian side than run them through the civil service side. And, so we have hired a young man. He seems to be doing good. He has a passion for animals, and, he will be taking care of that project for the city and taking care of that facility.
But that doesn't necessarily change anything with employment numbers or salaries, it's just their classification of employee.
Right.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, I'm sorry.
So is he gonna be under your,
Yes.
payroll?
He will work under me just like the records, or my records division, they're not civil service, and our part-times are not civil service, so he's our full-time civilian employee.
So I guess what Mr. Marcelo is asking, is that adding to your
No,
amount of
no,
employees?
No, because,
Thank
Okay.
you. Which I guess then I'll throw that out as well as to the mayor. Are there any other positions in the administration that we're adding employees?
There are not.
There are not any other? Okay, Chief, help me with your numbers. You are looking at needing, tell me the number of vehicles?
4,
You need 4 vehicles, and those vehicles will be replacing?
replacing 2016, 15 models up to this, and we'll start working into our 17, 18 Tauruses.
Okay, okay.
Our 15, 16 Explorers are in better shape than the 17, 18 Tauruses.
Understand.
Because of the sedans. The sedans just tear up quicker. We're constantly replacing motor mounts, front ends, brakes. They just don't hold up as well as the SUVs. The SUVs do a whole lot, a better, excellent job than those sedans.
So these 4 vehicles will be driven by the patrolman?
Patrol,
Would that be
yes,
right?
that will be in the patrol division.
All right, thank you.
At all?
On that part,
Okay. Did you have anything else?
not until we get into the budget.
Okay. Mr. Reynolds?
No, I've got all my questions answered.
Okay.
I would like to reiterate that $140,000 is reimbursable FEMA, it's in the record.
At some point.
Vegetation.
It is,
At some point,
absolutely, yes.
yeah.
So, that's reflecting in the total number, and it throws you off a little bit, but that's it. I guess I have one question. You mentioned trees. Yes. As part of your department?
It's in Parks and Recreation. I was just the one that asked for the money to put the trees in.
So it's not coming out of the streets?
No, sir.
Okay. I saw it in parks, but I thought, when you said it, I thought maybe you got another.
It was part of my wish list.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Landry, on that note, you are gonna send a request to each council person asking for streets that are in need in.
Actually already have.
You already have, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I wanna remind everyone of that, if you haven't, get with Mr. Landry on, these are for,
Next overlay.
yeah,
Not this year, the next overlay.
right, right.
So, I have one.
Okay.
So we talking about the overlays for next year, not talking about the ones that we talked about for this past year.
Right.
So that's,
You had called
that's a
and
work in
asked to have
progress.
things put into the list.
Yes,
Yes, I'll put it in.
okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
See, the bid award that we just did a few weeks ago, those streets will be done this year. And you're talking about a $1.2 million project for 2024.
Yes.
Is that clear?
And that's what you're wanting new streets for?
Yeah.
Is for 2024?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir,
So
'cause
we
he's
have
on.
not outlined those streets yet? Oh, okay. All right.
Back to the walking trail. Some of you newer people, the history of that West Park walking trail, I'm gonna give you a 30-second history of it. One morning at a local cafe, Robert Kite came in there and asked me, he said, are y'all gonna, no, I just come through DeQuincy going to Beaumont on the backside of DeQuincy where the hospital's at, and they've got a nice walking trail. Are y'all gonna do anything like that at West Park? And I told him, Robert, I says, Mayor Johnson has the plans that Bobby Scalfie drew up at no cost. They're in Gerald's office. We've got a commitment, $15,000 from the Boulevard Memorial Hospital, and we need a $15,000 match to overlay. And Robert said, why don't you get Gerald to come up to my office? So when I left, I came down here, told Gerald got those plans, went up to see Robert wrote a check for $15,000. The hospital put the other 15, and they also put some equipment out there, and it's still, some of it still may be there. Anyway, the whole point was, there may be some private individuals or businesses who may wanna help on redoing some of these walking trails out here. Something to do with health-related business, that kind of thing. We may wanna look at that, Mayor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Mr. Marcello, you said you had some questions on the budget?
We can, if we were gonna do it now.
Yes, Miss Brand can try to answer any
Okay.
questions.
I'm sure you can. Looking at the sales tax and what is being projected, projected as being, I think it's 8.5 million, is that correct? Okay. Through July 30th, last report, 2023 was 6,049,000. That was from the sales tax report that was given to us at the last meeting. So help me understand how, from which July is 10 months, that we would be able to project out 1.2 million to reach the 8,500,000. My thought is I'm projecting out through September 30 that would be somewhere around, unless we have real big influx that I'm not aware, would be 7,259,000. So that we are anticipating an increase of 1.2 million to get to 8.5 million. And we're looking at a decrease over the last couple of months.
Let me,
Help me.
I don't have our sales tax report, if anybody has that report, but I think the lowest number was 650,000. Is that correct?
6 million.
No, for the month, $650,000.
Oh, exactly.
So if you take that, we have 2 more months,
Okay,
August and September, that would be 1.2.
that'll take you to 7,259,000. And we're projecting for 2024 to be 8,500,000 in sales tax revenue.
You don't have a printout of the sales tax for this year?
My thought is, did we over project or how did we reach that
I think
number?
it's the same projection we had
What-
last year.
what I'm looking at,
That's your budget.
at the budget itself on page 54, as of June 30th, it received 6.7 million,
Where?
page 54.
Okay.
I don't have, the sales tax sheet, the up-to-date one that you get each month, but I
Same
don't
number.
think it's uncommon to get $600,000 to $700,000 a month. Am I correct?
So what are you saying we'll get at the end of this year? At the end of
The current year,
the end of September, if we are at,
8.6 million was our guess on page 54.
okay,
We've already received through June 6.7. We had our July number, I can't tell you what it is right now, but I don't. that's
So,
what I'm
Mr.
looking at.
Marcelo, what she's saying is
7.
$6.7 that's through June. So
Okay.
that's not including July, August, and September. So that's
That's 9 months.
3 more months.
Divided by,
You should,
July would be
you get close to
July,
probably,
August, September.
close to $2 million
It ends
on
in-
top of
It ends in
that.
September,
The-
July, August, September,
End
if
of
you're going through
September.
July.
July, August, September, so we have
The
3 more
number's
months.
through July.
This is not through July, this
You're saying
is
it's through June?
June through
That's
30,
correct.
yes,
Okay.
sir.
6:30.
6:30, yes, sir.
It says as of June 30th, 6.7 million. When you get
So we should
6 or
have 3 more
700
months of
You got 3 more months.
revenue.
So do we do propose,
70.
budget sales taxes the same every year?
No, no.
Because I'm looking at
No.
last
No,
year's
she-
budget and this year.
6.
She did last year, but probably the prior year. If I had to guess, it was gonna be more than that because y'all were see more money than that.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah,
Both
we've
budgeting.
We've,
books
we've,
from last year.
yes, we've typically increased our budget number for what we think we will get in sales tax over the years. But since we saw that hiccup this year with the instability, we were reserved on what we thought we would, receive from sales tax funds. So instead of increasing that like we have historically done, we just used the same sales tax projection, this year. That isn't a normal practice, but that is something that we did this year, just to be on the side of caution since we saw a little bit of instability, in the last couple of months, so.
Right.
Okay.
Like I said originally, it's always better to be more conservative with your revenue. You know, don't over-project that. And so,
So you're saying that for 12 months, it's 670 would put you at 8 million is what you're anticipating for the end of this year.
we anticipate 8.6, be 8.5, 8.7, something like that, yes.
So the last 2 months would be more than an average of
3.
670,000.
Three
The last 3
months.
months would
Yes,
be
sir.
more than an average of 670,000.
Not more than an average, I would say.
I'll see how we're doing.
You know, also you go back and see what you received the prior year in August and the prior year, you know, in
They're both
So
September.
did we
Same
say
as
it was
last year.
670 a
On our
month?
spreadsheet.
670,000 a month?
You could,
We
650,
have about $2
750.
million more to come in, Mr. Marcelo, so that should put us at 8.7.
Now, what the mayor just said is that they
6, 7.
projected the same sale tax.
That's
as
for the
they
Right.
next
did-
year, not
As
for
in
the
As
last
they
year.
did last year.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you could not,
Cause,
Mr.
Right,
President,
you had a-
670,000 times 20.
you had
how do you
additional
get a
sales
number
tax,
back?
that's right. That's what she
21,
said.
Well,
22,
I'm
but
not
now
doing
it's going
that.
back
I'm
down to
just
what it
saying this
normally
number-
runs.
Hang on 1 second, let me have the floor. 6,731,000 is
Gotcha.
where we're at as of June 30th.
Okay.
6,731,000. If you take the low number of $650,000 for 3 months,
Okay,
that's $1.9 million.
okay.
So if you add that to that, it puts us at about 8,700,000.
Okay.
So we're on target for where we were this year.
Okay.
And that's why we're not increasing, or the administration is not increasing that sales tax budget. They're keeping it the same at
Right.
8.5.
Okay. We'll look at that.
That's a safe bet.
talking about the reimbursements with FEMA. Way back there early after the hurricane, I thought, Mayor, we were hiring a consultant to help us
We did.
expedite. How'd that work out?
It's still working out, and we have weekly phone calls with them. It's a very interesting process, but, you know, so they work with us, it's a lot of work on their part. You can tell, you know, talk to some of y'all's conversations every week, but
So-
there are a lot of hurdles, but they're excellent.
It's the things that FEMA's wanting documented. Let me give, just a quick example, Dance Stop. They was actually wanting us to give them the make and model number of the doorknobs that was originally put in the building. How you gonna do that? So, I mean, it's just a struggle to answer all the different questions that they want answered to get your money.
Well, if we get what we're asking for on the reimbursement, what kind of money are we looking at?
On the, on the brush, I believe it's around right at another $2 million.
Big money.
Yes, we've got some big money out there. Dance Stop alone, we're expecting around $800,000 to $900,000 on it. You go to the 80% to 90% brush, at one point they paid 100% up to a certain date, and then they paid 90% after that. There's another almost $1 million coming in on that, once we can get everything lined up that they want.
And this consultant is helping us on this?
They're working their tails off.
Okay, good.
Wasn't there basically a guarantee that you will receive the money this year?
Yeah, a guarantee on yes, by
Some of
September 30th, we are supposed to have been able to close out what we were projecting to get last year. So we've been told we are going to get that, so hopefully it does line up.
Mr. Reynolds, you have the floor.
So will we be getting 800,000 or 900,000 extra from FEMA? Because is that gonna be extra for Dance Stop? Because that was insurance.
Yes. No, that's with insurance. The FEMA takes in consideration how much damage was done to the building, and then they will subtract how much money, insurance paid, and then they will
Pay what is
the
the
difference, they
remaining.
pay the difference. And it's just a matter of trying to get everything listed.
The difference is 800,000 or 900,000?
No, so that's the total cost of the building.
So
We got 400,000 on, 470,000, I think it was, on insurance. So FEMA will be paid, if we can get everything lined up, the difference.
You got anything else? One more question.
I do have a question, just out of curiosity.
Yes, sir.
On page 7, where it shows interest and rent, for projected 2023, it shows 1,306,000, and our budget is 114,000. Were we expecting something larger on page 7 on interest and rent? It's
That's
just
it.
a much larger number than anything else.
That's up at the top.
That's up at the top. It's
Okay.
under water, sewer, and sales. I just wondered what that 1.3 was.
That was for this
was-
past year.
Right.
Okay.
What was this, I'm just curious, what was the change dramatically? Of what budgeted that high? And then we're at 85,000 for actual 2022, and then we go to 114.
So did we,
What makes that up? Come with
did
those
we have to
numbers.
float the FEMA money? And are we paying interest on that?
Oh,
Interest received.
This is not
Right.
paying,
Oh,
this is receiving.
Oh, okay.
This is receiving, page 7.
I'm looking
Page
at
7,
the,
right, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line down. Just didn't know what that 1 million just jumped out.
Yeah,
Was that anything with the pipe or anything?
Maybe.
Just going through and receiving the letter, look at it and make sure
And while we're looking at that line, just above for water sewer sales, we're showing roughly that we expect 503,000 above what we did in 2023. That's what the increase should be, Roy. For the water rates is what y'all are projecting. We'll get an additional 503,000 coming from the water rates for this year. So that's about a 20% increase over last year.
Let's go, okay, hang on a second. Let's go back to, you're looking at the projected interest and rents,
Just,
et cetera, in the general fund.
mhm.
That shows 1.3 million. If you
Yeah.
look at the detail, that includes the loan proceeds. The
So that was a
open
loan?
line of credit.
Our line of credit is included. And that line of credit doesn't carry over for the following year? It doesn't go into the budget for 2024?
No, they think you're trying to get some more this year and get reimbursed from FEMA. I don't assume they're gonna need any more.
Okay.
You had a question on utility revenue
Well,
for Roy or me?
he says they are anticipating at least a 20% increase, which is 503,000.
I think
That's a realistic
that's the
number.
new rate.
That is gonna be the new rates and the fees.
And so that's what it should generate?
That is correct.
Mr. Markey? Okay. Okay, we're about out of time. I wanna thank each department head, because I know each department head puts these wish lists like, the mayor asked for. And you get some of your stuff, you don't get all of your stuff, but I appreciate all of your hard work at putting this budget together. This budget will be proposed to be introduced tonight, but you have 2 weeks. And you're welcome to get with the mayor or any department head if you see any other questions that you might have, over the next 2 weeks. And, I'm sure they will be glad to answer any questions. I appreciate each department head answering my questions. I reached out to each department except for Ken.
You're a little busy.
Yes, sir, I knew you were. And we appreciate what y'all have been doing with that. Hopefully we can have a little bit more time in the meeting to talk about that. So if there's no further business for the workshop,